This happened several years ago. I was 14 when this happened and very innocent in the ways of the neckbeard. It was May, the end of the school for me. I live in southern Louisiana, and we get out early. For my birthday, my sister got a weekend pass for an anime convention that we were holding in New Orleans. We got there and meet up with several of my sister's friends, and one of her friends, who we shall call Mitchie. Mitchie had a younger brother, who we will call Timmy, a year older than me. We hit it off since we both liked anime, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and others that I was into. My sister teased me that whole weekend, and to my great surprise, I got his number. I was happy because as a 14-year-old girl who never once had a boy give her the time of day, and the guy who I liked did not even look like a neckbeard. He was just a scrawny 15-year-old boy, but I was gaga over him. When I got home that Monday, I told my parents that I had a boyfriend. I was 14 and very naive. My parents, being parents, asked if they could meet him, so I texted him and asked if he wanted to come over and meet my parents, and maybe his parents could meet mine. Timmy agreed, and so the next week his family came over, and we had a great time. My parents liked Timmy and his parents. It turned out that we had more in common, and we started to get steady at the beginning of June. Timmy was a great guy until one day in July. In the middle of July, my dad's phone broke. We don't know what happened, but it just stopped working, and he had to send his phone back to the manufacturer and had to wait a couple of days until his rental phone could come. So I texted Timmy saying that my dad would be using my phone during the day and not to text my phone at all, but he could text during the evening. He texted back, and the conversation went like this. Timmy: yeah, sure, no problem. I can still talk to you, though. Me: yeah, I never said you couldn't. I'll be on my computer most of the day, so I can talk to you through Facebook Messenger. Timmy: sounds great. The next 2 days we chatted, and it was just bliss until my dad came back from work on the third day. He was pissed, and I mean pissed off to the point that he would punch the devil in the face. My mom and I just thought he and his boss had gotten into an argument with his boss since they were having problems at work. After about an hour or so, he calmed down and calmly explained to me what happened was not my fault, and I was not in control of Timmy's behavior. I was confused, and that was when he showed me a long series of texts throughout the morning. The texts go as follows. Timmy: good morning. I said good morning! Oh, I want to talk! Mary, answer me! My dad showed me his response. Dad: hey, this is Mary's dad. I think she told you that I was using her phone because mine broke. Is there something going on? You sound kind of urgent. Timmy: oh, sorry, I forgot. Nah, I'm fine. Dad: well, okay. If something has happened, let your parents know, okay? Timmy: okay, thanks, Mr. Tutor. Then a few hours later, Timmy texted my phone again, and the text got even more aggressive than the ones he sent that morning. Timmy: Mary, I want to talk! Answer! Answer me! Fine, be that way, you fucking slut! Now, my dad didn't see these messages until the end of his shift and got super angry. He ended up texting back saying, and keep in mind, my dad is a very gracious person and is normally very calm. This: Daddy: Timmy, this is Mary's father. I don't know what is going on between you and my daughter, but I think you forgot that I have her phone. Do not ever call my daughter that again. In fact, never talk to my daughter again. If you ever think about talking to her, I will personally come over to your house and will not like what I would do. I was shocked that my dad had threatened my boyfriend, but I was even more shocked that Timmy would call me that. He knew that I didn't have my phone, but I still talked to him on my computer, but he was not online that day. I figured he was busy, so I didn't bother to message him after he did not respond after 2 hours of sending the message. I was at a loss of what to do. But my mom said that I should block him and let him handle it. I texted my sister the next day to tell her what happened. I sent her the screenshots of what Timmy said, and she was also livid. She promised that she would talk to Mitchie about it. I was smart and deleted Timmy's number from my phone and blocked him on Facebook too. About a week later, I got a message from Mitchie saying he was shocked to hear about Timmy and that he told his mother and dad that Timmy would be grounded and had a phone and computer privileges taken away from further notice. Timmy's dad and my dad had a long conversation about what Timmy did and agreed that it was best that we broke whatever we had off, and that would be the monitoring Timmy's phone and computer for the foreseeable future. It had been several years since I have not heard anything from Timmy, and I hope he's changed for the better. This is a tale of the late 90s, early 2000s equivalent of a neckbeard, whatever that may be. Our 8th grade history teacher was on a maternity leave and told us that this was her last week and next week we would have a sub. All she knew was that the sub was fresh out of college. The next week, the front of our room is occupied by a corpulent man sporting a trench coat over his plaid button-down and basketball shorts. As our school had a dress code, this was somewhat surprising. For that day, class continued as usual. We were instructed by Mr. Chesterton, not his real name, but it fits, in the finer points of the Battle of Shiloh, interrupted only by Chesterton belching a few times and soon some dumbass throwing a pencil at the trilby hat on the coat hook. The next day, Mr. Chesterton announced that he did not feel that the Civil War was important and proceeded to spend a few days discussing Nazi Germany for no reason in particular. After a few days of ridicule, he ditched the trench coat, but the shirt and shorts stayed. He wore the same shirt and shorts multiple days in a row, and their appearance led some believe that they doubled as sleepwear. 2 weeks into his tenure, Mr. Chesterton's attention was consumed by the foul beast known as Final Fantasy IX. One Monday, Chesterton was seen bringing a PS1 into the classroom and hooking up to his computer monitor. He gave us a study hall and spent the day in class playing Final Fantasy. He got told off by administration that afternoon after somebody complained, and the next morning he grumpily resumed his history of the Third Reich. A few people expressed concern that the impromptu German history lesson was lasting so long, and the plump Chesterton responded eloquently. "I don't know jack shit about the Civil War, and I'm not about to go doing some reading. I majored in physical education." He sure didn't look the part. We spent the rest of Mr. Chesterton's time learning more about World War II history, and Mr. Chesterton spent most of his time attempting to make eye contact with some girls. One day, a student, basically a late 90s Chad, who cared little for anything other than hockey and girls, threatened to "Put your lights out, fatso," and Mr. Chesterton brought a gun to school the next day. He said he had better ones at home. This did not surprise many of us, as Mr. Chesterton was often seen to use a Swiss Army knife to open his microwave popcorn during free periods. On his last day, he made everyone popcorn and put on some crappy movie while we did something on a bright yellow Game Boy and stared hungrily at the girl closest to him. During his time at the school, Chesterton had garnered a reputation as something of a creep, and a few students claimed that he spent his periods viewing pornography on his school-issued Apple computer. He left us that day with a tip of his hat and a reminder to pursue academic success as I have. The next day, our regular teacher came in and gave us a Civil War quiz. When that went particularly bad, we regaled her with tales of Mr. Chesterton's fascination with the fascist Germany and young girls. Mr. Chesterton was scheduled to stay on as a sub and teach PE in the intern. Was promptly removed from the school. The last anyone saw of him was as a beast figure hunched over his Honda, trying to get to start and cursing wildly.